So the year is 2030. You just heard news that a rocket launched and it's heading to Mars. A couple months later, you hear that it landed successfully and everything went perfect. But let's just see, what exactly did they do to get to that point? What was all the challenges they needed to overcome just to get to Mars? So first off, we need to think about how they got there, because we're gonna be riding in a rocket for 7 months straight just to get to Mars. We need to travel over 140 million miles just to get there. So what do they need? Well, the basics: we need food, water, some oxygen, and also radiation protection. Because we aren't going in the ISS, so we have no atmosphere around us or magnetosphere. So we're exposed to all types of solar radiation. So we need something that can block all that radiation. We could try to get a artificial magnetosphere around us, but that wouldn't really fit on the rocket very well. What we would probably want to do is fill up the rocket walls with some sort of substance that blocks out radiation. On NASA's official website, nasa.gov, they say a thick, dense material like cement would be able to block out galactic cosmic rays and gamma rays. So that just might be what we need. Let's just cut right to the chase. What would we need for a Mars base? So we would need food, water, radiation protection, energy, and protection from dust storms, some sort of way to combat the gravity, a good way of communication, because it takes light around 10 to 20 minutes just to get to Earth. Another thing we'll need is an airlock that doesn't malfunction once. If the airlock does malfunction, just like the scene from the Martian, it will completely explode and will be dangerous. We will also want a good oxygen supply, but since we're going to be on Mars, breathing 100% oxygen won't be the best for the crewmates. So we'll want to mix it up with other gases that are normally in our atmosphere to make them more used to it. Another issue we'll have is the fact that the dust on Mars is very fine and likes to stick to everything just like glitter. And the worst part about it is very toxic. If you breathe it in large amounts, it can be deadly. So we'll need a way to not have it get in our base. So first off, for the water, scientists think we can just extract it from the soil in Mars. So that would be a way for getting water. Or if we set up our base camp at the peaks of the planet. Now food is going to be a different story, because the Mars soil doesn't have the nutrients it needs to make plants grow. So we would need to basically clean it. It has stuff that is actually toxic to plants. So we'll need to find a way to purify it. But once we get through all that, it's gonna grow normal. We just need an inside greenhouse. And yeah, once they actually start growing and not stopping, then you're in the clear for food. So getting energy is gonna be a whole nother story. Just like the food one, but energy is gonna be harder, because solar panels, they only get us 40% of what we get on Earth, so they might not be as efficient. And also, with how common dust storms are on Mars, we would need to clean them out a lot. We could resort to nuclear reactors, because no other power method will work on Mars. So we could resort to nuclear reactors, and every 2 years, we get a shipment of uranium and materials we need to run it. There are 2 main methods we can use to deal with the dust on Mars. The first one being we connect the back of our suit to the base, then we climb out that way and then get in the base while our suit stays outside. Or what we could do is we rinse off our suit in the airlock with water or something else. So protection from radiation, we just need to look back at what I said earlier. What I said earlier is NASA says concrete would be able to block out the most harmful solar rays, which means we could build our base out of concrete. We could possibly create our own concrete using the materials on Mars. Because on Mars, since it's so far, we're gonna have to make do with the materials we have there. So maybe we mix the soil there with water and other materials we need to make concrete, and then 3D print it. There's not really anything we can do about the gravity, except we will need to exercise a lot on Mars. The fact that the gravity is lower on Mars means we'll lose bone mass and density, so we will need to exercise to keep it the same. Just like the gravity, there's not really anything we can do to combat the communication delay, because it's the speed of light that takes that long. and we have no technology that goes faster than the speed of light. So we're just gonna have to hope our satellites work, and we cannot rely on people on Earth to help us, because by then, once we receive the signals, we'll be gone if something bad was happening. There's a 3 to 4 minute delay between communication when Mars is at its closest approach. But when it gets further, there is a 22-minute delay. Believe it or not, one of the biggest issues isn't something on Mars. It's actually with the people who go there. Because the fact that they're over 140 million miles from Earth will be hard on their mental health. And you'll have to be really healthy mentally and be able to handle being that far from your home. For the oxygen we breathe, we're going to mix it with other gases to make it more similar to our atmosphere. What we'll want is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, some argon and other gases. We won't have to fit all the other gases, just the main ones, like the nitrogen and oxygen and maybe some argon. But the oxygen is going to be easy enough to get. Believe it or not, scientists have actually started trying to make technology to change carbon dioxide to oxygen. So if that goes correctly, then that's a good way of oxygen. Or if that doesn't end up working good, we can just extract oxygen from water we find. So there's a good source of oxygen. But how will we get the nitrogen? To make nitrogen on Mars, it might not be as hard as the oxygen part, because what we'll need to do is burn a carbon-rich substance in oxygen, and then the remaining gas will be mostly nitrogen. Then we can get it that way. For argon, we could extract that from Mars's atmosphere. Mars has 1.9% argon in its atmosphere. But another way for the nitrogen, we could use what's in Mars' atmosphere. They have molecular nitrogen, and we could possibly convert that to normal nitrogen. If Mars had more oxygen in its atmosphere, then we would be able to use the oxygen in its atmosphere to make our artificial atmosphere in our base, but it only has 0.16 molecular oxygen, so that is not enough. So for protection from dust storms, we're just gonna have to be in our building and hope it can withstand it. If it's made out of concrete, it most likely can, because it's not really gonna get damaged from just high winds and dust. We're just gonna have to hope it doesn't interfere with our nuclear reactor. And at the very last, we have a perfect airlock. The thing is, it's not possible to have a perfect airlock. It's gonna malfunction at some times. We just need to really hope it does not malfunction, because if it does, that's going to be bad for the whole crew. The absolute last thing I need to cover is the low temperatures on Mars. On average, it is negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to need a heater. That shouldn't be too hard to get. That warms up our base. And also with concrete, it should be insulated and keep the heat in. So that's a good way for our heater.